Hello, and welcome to an adventure like no other. Far more than what you have known, there is something far more to be known than you can ever know. And it is all about you, the real you, your real awareness with your intuitive senses. You were never taught that the real you, your real awareness, is operating 5 bodies in cause and effect, restricting creation. You have been taught to think that you are only a one-dimensional human person, with a mind and emotions, and with a very short lifespan on this planet Earth. More than what your mind can grasp is your intuitive senses that can be opened to see beyond all your restrictions. You have always had an opening to see beyond what you have known, and this has been purposely kept from you, and this is where you have heard rumors and stories about your nightly dreams. Your so-called dreams is your opening to your intuitive senses that will allow you, the personal you, to excel beyond what you have previously known. Everyone has intuitive senses, and very few people take advantage of what is possible by recognizing something more than their mind can understand. Creation has its place for all of us, and then there is all life, which is far more than anything than what can become with creation. Everything we experience is necessary for us to survive with whatever we choose and decide our life to be. New Kevin Smith is the great witness to something more than what can be taught and learned in any school. It can be so that when anyone first listens to Kevin's intuitive side experiences, also known as real side experiences, from what their personal mind has known, Kevin's manner of expression will at first be rather different to comprehend. This is where this introduction and reading the new books and Facebook groups will help. Have fun deciding. DUANE the Great Writer and Seer.
This real side experience would begin with my traversing across multi-dimensional creation. Clearly, I had a destination in mind, as we are our intent. The nature of the intent we formulate will dictate our experience. We are the experience we then generate. And on the real side, as we become more so standing as the nowness, real awareness that we actually are, and the real awareness has determined to recognize the all is, it is a part of. As we remove ourselves from personal self-immersion, placing the creation, the mind and emotions of consciousness aside, so the real awareness will operate and animate its real side simulated forms in ways that make sense with life, in ways that benefit awareness. And through the reflective principle, as life is supported, life in turn affords a greater recognition of itself to each real awareness accordingly. The real intent, that of is recognition, then formulates experience resultingly, that facilitates the recognizing of the true reality. Experience which is required for comparative purposes, simulation-wise, and the actions necessary that allows for the earning of the way, the earning of one's awareness and standing as the true being of light we already are with the isness. As the personal self then is placed aside, the real awareness dictating a real side activity, it is as though the personal self were but a passenger in a car that's direction is orchestrated by real awareness. And prudent is it then to simply observe what's transpiring, absent of a personal self-interjection. The personal self is simply the mechanism by which the everything is can be compared to that which it isn't, the various simulated experiences we receive. But should the personal self come to the fore, which it will as we activate it, through the manifesting of ideas, thought and emotion, we are removed from the nowness, the seat of real awareness orchestrated operation, and we are limited to the abilities and references the personal self has available from the current lifetime of experiences only. The real awareness, on the other hand, as a part of the isness everything which permeates through all consciousness, so every idea all consciousness comprises of is available to it, as though access to a complete database of ability, know-how, and knowledge references that allow any situation to be handled, any objective to be completed, and any eventuality or variable to be managed. And many times then, what is taking place on the real side may make little sense to the personal self, until a certain point in the experience, and perhaps where additionally real awareness impressions are provided for clarification. On occasions, only on waking may the experience be pieced together, evaluated, and an explanation applied. Though it must be emphasized, everything idea-based, everything creational, the simulated experiences, regardless of their nature, and including whatever explanations and viewpoints we apply, as these also will be ideas we have literally generated, all will serve as comparisons by which the all is everything can be recognized, and we can get as absorbed into our explanations as we might the actual experiences, should we not maintain a position of a creational idea detachment and indifference, ensuring we embrace nothing of creation, any created idea, as featuring within it. As I said in the beginning, I would be travelling multi-dimensionally. In actuality, the isness is an everything reality where nothing isn't encompassed. As a consequence, there can be no actual emotion, for where would one be travelling to if everything is incorporated into the nowness of our isness, everything beingness? Point-to-point motion can only exist where parts of the ears have been isolated and in relation to other isolated pieces, and where consciousness has installed the ideas that dictate the means by which these seemingly separate ideas can be travelled between. Isolation of parts, created ideas, of the isness everything can only be possible through creational mechanics, and where what is then experienced in the simulators are the comparisons that afford is recognition, the parts, pieces, in a comparative relation to the whole. And despite the simulated unreality of emotion as experienced from the personal self perspective and view, the real awareness is the isness reality everything animating through all consciousness affected features, as I said, and from the real awareness perspective, every creational idea is within the nowness of its reality, and indeed can the simulated forms it animates be inserted anywhere creationally as a consequence, absent of the necessity of utilizing what has been decided in a consciousness as to the means of a multi-dimensional traversing. But although directly manifesting to our destination is possible, then more likely will experience be retained on waking, the more detail is afforded, especially if we do make use of mechanisms of dimensional real side travel, and they are rather awe-inspiring to the personal self. In this case, some mode of transport was in operation, though one that made little sense to my personal self, and so it was a feature rather disregarded. But whatever it was afforded a highly efficient means of dimensional travel, as I was being accelerated at extreme velocity, bombarded with colour and dazzling light as I proceeded, reminding me a little of scenes from Star Trek, where the Enterprise activates its warp drive and hurtles through the stars, where the scenery external to the ship becomes as a blur of colour and light. The only other feature at this stage of the experience was in regards to the body form I was operating as. And perhaps, just like the nature of my travelling, designed that it stick in the memory on waking, so my form also was of a design that would be more memorable, as I would be reptilian, green-scaled, sporting a tail, the elongated lizard-like face, and so forth. Maintaining this body type, my journey would terminate in a very dark region of creation. Evidently, my means of transport was for the purposes of delivering me to what impressions revealed was a very unenviable dimension, an oppressive, gloomy realm indeed. I would not be alone, however, for standing beside me now would be none other than the real guide, Paul Twitchell. Generally, the guides assume alternative forms to those they usually operate as, in my experiences, and where only impressions will reveal as to they being such. So this was rather unusual and irregular, for me at least. Seems we had business to attend to in this forbidding dimension, as impressions would reveal that a number of black magic orientated practices and rituals had been taking place throughout creation that had facilitated the means by which certain portals could be opened. These portals had been sealed, and for the purposes of containing the distorted and ill-intended body forms that lurked in a particular dimension of creation, but now, as I said, had certain black magic activity allowed for these portals to be reopened after who knew how many eons of their closure. It was a case, then, of ideas as decided in consciousness that dictated this situation. For everything experienced in creation is based on agreements as formulated that determines simulated circumstance. As ideas, then, were effecting what was transpiring here, should the ideas change, so will what is occurring. And although every being has the free will right to create and thus experience whatever they decide, should the effects of their choices be abrasively impacting of others, ultimately, as we are the reflection of ourselves, such beings will eventually experience their own abrasiveness in equal measure. But rather than everything to play out as it will, the effects the ill-intended being would at some point experience can be exchanged for alternatives. Their effects can be managed that rather than allowing the destructive impulses of the being or beings to unfold, instead the ill-inclined characters can be displaced or contained, preventing their ability from wreaking the havoc they intended. In this case, whoever or whatever had been responsible for opening the portals that effectively were designed to seal a breed of very twisted body forms within a certain contained dimension, that the body forms now at liberty to trespass multi-dimensionally and with the intention of destruction, so the effects they would have to face in the aftermath of their abrasive deeds were to be managed. Simply that the portals were to be sealed again, a karmic sentence of incarceration, if you will, an effect in equal measure to the causes the creatures would have exacted, not to the extent severity of the phantom zone, but containment nonetheless, that they would be unable to bestow harm on other beings creationally, other than squabble among themselves. For impressions also revealed that these twisted body types had the planet Earth as one of their decided targets, and as I had arrived on the scene with the Paul present, so through the opened portal before us, into the broken, desolate and forbidding dimension we were in, would pour a seemingly endless army of demonic-like creatures and body forms. Paul and I would prevent the ability of the twisted denizens of whatever dark dimension they hailed from leaving the creational position we were in, and as though repel them, sending them back from whence they came and sealing the portals again, containing them once more. It was all rather spectacular for the personal self to behold, but simulation aside, we were effectively simply managing the effects, the karma, as decided by the demonic individuals, preventing them from surging throughout multi-dimensional creation and carrying out the carnage they had intended. In an unrelated scene that followed, I would be in the company now of DUANE, and he would be revealing to me not only one of the planned aspects of the Dark Force controller's agenda in regards to the Earth and humanity, but that it was extremely impending. Humanity, or any species, can only experience what they decide, including that which befalls them in relation to other species. The idea agreements must be present in human consciousness that the dominating Dark Force reptilians can not only maintain their control of humanity, but escalate it. Currently, the Dark Forces desire to exact depopulation, and perhaps in the extremes, genocide, and so necessary is it to install the ideas into human consciousness, the various means by which this can be accomplished. For although every idea is in effect now, in isness reality terms, due to the design of consciousness, only certain of these ideas will be experienced at any given moment. Whatever of the ideas of consciousness are held in prominence over all others, as though a certain movie selected from the collection. And for the movie that is chosen, even though complete on the disc, consciousness affected physical level human body forms process the causes to the effects in a gradual rolling out manner, much as we must sit through the completed movie as it is processed through the DVD player. Consequently, if another idea agreement comes into prominence prior to the effects of what was being experienced being reached, we have, in essence, exchanged the movie for another before reaching its end, and where the effect would have been physical level actualized. Imperative is it then that the controllers install as many idea agreements of a depopulation nature into human consciousness that increases the chances that one of them will become as prominent and be maintained long enough to be physical level exacted. And over the years I have been chronicling all the potentialities and variations as revealed to me, but ultimately humanity decides its fate based on which agreement it retains in prominence to effect conclusion. In this case and real side experience, DUANE would reveal to me that in exactly 2 days' time, the controllers would be making alterations to the very moon, that would have dire ramifications for the Earth. At the time of this experience sharing, this will be the second day. The Moon is in actuality a hollowed-out planetoid, and was utilized as a means of reptilian space travel, just as any craft might serve as. It originally traversed through the stars and was parked in a geostationary Earth orbit many millennia ago. It has remained there ever since and serves as a space station for surveillance purposes and for the beaming of certain distorted frequencies that bathe the Earth and all humanity. The Earth originally was absent of the Moon, but as it acquired it, so there was a certain electromagnetic relationship established between the two planetary bodies, that should the Moon alter its position in relation to the Earth, this will have an effect and bearing on the Earth. For indeed, African legends speak of the reptilians threatening to do just this, to move the Moon, which will cause catastrophic upheavals to the Earth, should humanity not adhere utterly to the reptilians' dictates. For the plan was now to do just this, to gradually ease the Moon from its current position, and to continue to do so, a plan that would be executed in 2 days' time, which is today, as I said, a process that would take approximately 200 days, as DUANE also would reveal to me in this experience. Throughout these 200 days would the Earth be racked in escalating severity of a global catastrophe, extreme weather phenomenon, earthquakes and tidal flooding, and ultimately, after the 200 days had concluded, the Moon positioned now wherever it was, so the continents of the Earth, with every city that rests upon them, would have been practically destroyed, for the overall purposes of depopulation. As I said, all according to which idea agreement becomes as prominent, but as this potentiality was very precise in regards to its imminent timeline, this suggests this is a very real possibility. And indeed, as though for emphasis, would I be afforded the simultaneous view of the cities and structures of the world being destroyed through the global cataclysms wrecking the Earth, as I also have shared with previous real side experiences of these potential controller-instigated disaster scenarios, as we only are resigned to situations as we hold to the ideas that affect them, for those on their awareness processes where they are releasing ideas of the consciousness, including those which affect as all these potential Earth cataclysmic situations, they are not then resigned to that which the majority of humanity will be, that although we may be experiencing the human game, so to speak, we are at liberty to at any moment exchange the game for another. We can embrace alternative provided options and ideas which affect altogether different experiential situations. The average consciousness embracing human, although they may desire such an alternative, will be unable to experience anything other than the ideas that are the human game, as though unable to unplug themselves from it. For as we hold to the consciousness, we cling to the ideas it comprises of, we are then the effects of its construct, and are resigned to our positions generally. The alternative options for those releasing these Earth and humanity experience limiting ideas is along the lines of a planetary relocation, should situations on the Earth become dire to the extent that nonsensical is it to remain. an option being facilitated generally by other species and body forms with their respective human relocating spacecraft, etc. But ultimately, where we must agree, we must have the ideas consciousness installed where this can be our experience, and absent of the ideas that anchor us to the earth. For although visually what now transpired presented as DUANE raising his hands and manifesting above his head was as though an endless scene of space, of galaxies and stars, the impressions in conjunction with what was assimilated was of this very notion, that of arranged relocation for those who through their intent set with the ears, which involves the releasing of all creationally limiting ideas, so they had afforded themselves the opportunity of relocation due to what was to be an escalating deterioration of the earth, now set in motion as this experience is being read, and which will continue and escalate over the 200-day period to its overall cataclysmic global conclusion. But as I said, even as a cause begins to roll out to its effect, should an alternative agreement come to the fore, so the culmination point may not be reached. But for now, perhaps interesting will it be to view the moon and determine any irregularities, perhaps a diminishing or increasing in size as its position begins to be altered in relation to the earth, and very likely a ramping up of global disasters and extreme weather phenomena can be expected.